Okay, I'm not just saying this. Watch until the end of the video because this is one of the craziest near-death experiences I've ever read, I've ever heard. And I've heard hundreds. You guys know I have whole videos on near-death experiences. This is a powerful testimony. This was on YouTube and it was using like an AI voice for the story. So I just thought, how am I going to do this? I'm just going to read it to you guys. So it is a little bit long, but stay with it. It's super powerful. It starts like this. My name is Robert. I never thought I'd be sharing something like this, but after what happened to me, I can't stay silent. I was an ordinary teenager focused on school, friends, and my phone, which is like every teenager today. Faith isn't something I thought about often, but on the day I died, everything changed. What I saw, what I heard, it was real and it was terrifying. I was gone for just a few minutes, but in that time, Jesus showed me things that shook me to my core. This is my story, and if you're reading this, please listen. Time is running out. It was just another regular day, nothing special, nothing different. I woke up to my mom calling me for breakfast like she did every morning. I groaned, pulled the blanket over my head, and scrolled through my phone for a few more minutes before dragging myself out of bed. Just another Monday. I got dressed, grabbed my backpack, and headed out. The morning was cold, but I barely noticed. My mind was somewhere else. Text messages, plans for the weekend, school drama. If you ask me what I was thinking about, it definitely wasn't God. And that's the testimony right there, because that's how I was before I was saved. That's probably how a lot of you were. I wasn't against faith or anything, but I wasn't exactly the praying type either. Church was something I sat through for my mom's sake. As I walked to school, I had no idea I was only hours away from crossing the line that most people would never return from. And I've had this thought all the time about, you cross that line into eternity at any moment, and you never think like, I'm 5 minutes from crossing into eternity. And that's I'm giving my own commentary, by the way, there. But that's just interesting he said that. All right, here he says. Lunch was the same as always. Loud, full of people talking over each other. My best friend cracked a joke and we laughed until our stomachs hurt. It was a good moment, but one I barely remember now because after lunch, everything took a turn I could have never expected. I was standing by my locker when I heard someone calling my name. It was my friend from class waving me over to walk outside together. I slammed my locker shut and jogged to catch up. We were halfway across the parking lot when I heard it. Screeching tires. I turned my head just in time to see a massive truck barreling towards me. My friend screamed and I had no time to react, no time to run, and then there was impact. A force like nothing I've ever felt hit me, lifting me off my feet. Pain exploded through my body and the world spun and everything blurred together in a mess of noise and motion, then silence. For a moment I thought time had stopped. The sky above me was frozen, the people around me standing still, but something felt wrong. I wasn't cold anymore. I wasn't even touching the ground. I looked down and I saw my own body laying there, twisted, lifeless. My friend was screaming, people rushing over, but I wasn't there anymore. I was floating above, watching it all like a scene from a movie. And I've had an experience like this when I got dragged under a broken trailer behind a tractor, where I came out of my body and saw myself being dragged down the road. And by a miracle, I survived that when I was a kid, but I had a similar experience. A lot of near-death experiences, people come out of their body. Because then I felt it. Something pulling me. It wasn't gentle, it was strong, unrelenting. I was being dragged, pulled towards something I couldn't see. This was the moment I knew I was dead. I don't think people realize how fast life can change. 1 second I was laughing with my friends, the next I was gone. No warning, no last words, just an instant. And let me just add my own commentary. This is mind-blowing to me. My brain can't wrap my head around that, the instant finality of death where you're just gone and you're never coming back and you're never going to talk to somebody. It just blows my mind thinking about how instant life can be gone. He says this, and everything was over. I remember the impact, the way my body felt lifeless for a split second before crashing back down, the sound of metal crunching, people screaming, tires screeching. It should have lasted forever, but it was over in a heartbeat and then silence. This is where it gets really interesting. I didn't feel my body anymore. No pain, no breath, nothing, just stillness. I opened my eyes expecting to see the ground, but I wasn't there. I was floating. It took me a moment to understand what I was seeing. My body was on the pavement, completely still. My arms twisted at an unnatural angle. Blood pulled beneath my head. My friend knelt beside me, screaming my name and shaking me. I tried to reach out to tell her I was right there, but my hands passed through her like smoke. Then the pull started. It was like something latched onto me, dragging me away from the world I knew. I fought against it, but there was no resisting. I was being taken, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. At first, I thought maybe I was going to heaven. That's what's supposed to happen, right? When you die, you see a bright light and go towards it, but there was no light, only darkness. And the further I went, the colder I became. I felt like I was sinking into something thick, like ink or tar. Voices whispered around me, but I couldn't see anyone. The words weren't clear, but I knew that they were not friendly. Then I heard something else, a deep voice commanding, the full of power. Stop. Everything froze, the darkness, the whispers, the pulling, it all stopped in an instant. And then there was light. Not just any light, this light was alive. It cut through the darkness like fire through paper, and standing in the middle of it was a figure. I knew who he was before he even spoke, Jesus, and he didn't look happy. At that moment, nothing else mattered, not my body, not my life, not anything I'd left behind. I was standing before Jesus, and I knew without a doubt that he was real. His presence was overwhelming. It wasn't just light, it was power. It filled everything, piercing through me, exposing every thought, every action, and everything I've ever done. Ooh, it gives me chills. I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. Then he looked at me and I felt everything: love, sorrow, disappointment. I wanted to drop to my knees to beg him for mercy, but I had no control over myself. My entire being was laid bare before me. Then he spoke. Robert, do you know why you're here? I tried to answer, but no words came out. He didn't wait for a response. Instead, he lifted his hand, and suddenly I was seeing my life, all of it. And let me just stop and say, this is very common in near-death experiences. This is called a life review, where when people die, they get an entire review of their life. Something just to think about. Every moment, every choice, every sin I had ever committed. Oh, that's scary. It played before me like a movie, except I felt everything. Every emotion, every consequence. I saw times I'd hurt people, times I'd ignored those in need, every lie, every selfish action, and I felt the weight of it all. Jesus wasn't punishing me, he was showing me the truth. Oh! Then the visions changed. I saw something else, a world burning, people screaming, darkness spreading across the earth like a plague, and worst of all, people walking around toward it willingly. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't, and that's when Jesus said something I will never forget. This is what is coming. As Jesus spoke those words, this is what is coming, the light around us faded and I was plunged into darkness. It wasn't just any darkness, it was thick, suffocating, alive. I felt cold, but not the chill of winter. This was different. It was a kind of cold that sank into my bones, deeper than the body itself, a cold that wrapped around my soul and refused to let go. I wasn't alone at first. I only sensed them, shapes and shadows moving beyond my vision. When I heard them whisper, slithering through air, words I couldn't fully understand, but instinctively knew were evil laughter, low guttural mocking, a voice deep and distorted spoke to me saying, "You don't belong here yet." I turned trying to find the source, but there was no direction in this place. No up, no down. I was floating in an endless abyss. Then suddenly I was falling. The pit swallowed me whole, and the deeper I fell, the worse it became. The whispers grew into screams, cries of agony and despair. Shadows turned into figures, twisted, writhing forms reached out, clawing at me, trying to snag me down further, trying to drag me down further. The smell, burning flesh, decay. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I knew where I was. I'd heard about it in church, but I never believed it was real. But there was no denying it now. This was hell. The screams, endless, layered on top of each other, never stopping. Faces appeared in the flame, some contorted in rage, others in sorrow. I saw people I recognized, some from school, some I only met in passing. Their eyes locked onto mine, pleading, but I couldn't help them. Then I heard a voice I recognized. "Robert, help me." It was a friend, someone I'd laughed with, joked with, hung around with, someone who never took faith seriously, just like me. And I saw his face and he saw me, and in his eyes, I saw something I'll never forget. Regret. Ooh, chills. That's intense. A pain so deep, so overwhelming that it swallowed every other emotion. I reached out instinctively, but something grabbed my wrist. "You cannot help them now." Jesus. He pulled me out, and suddenly I wasn't in the darkness anymore. I was standing back in the light, but I wasn't relieved. My body shook and my breath in ragged gasp. Why? I choked out. Jesus looked at me, his eyes filled with sorrow because they chose this. "Oh, why?" he asked. I choked out. I wanted to argue to say that no one would choose that kind of suffering, but deep down, I knew what he meant. People reject him. They live like none of it matters, and then their time comes, it's too late. The weight of what I just seen crushed me. And then Jesus said something even more terrifying. This is only the beginning. Even though Jesus pulled me out of the pit, I still felt something lurking in the darkness. I wasn't safe. I could feel eyes on me, watching and waiting. It wasn't just one, dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands. They hid in the shadows just beyond the light that Jesus surrounded me with. I turned my head slowly, and that's when I saw them. Figures, twisted and hollow eyes, burned with a sick red glow. They weren't humans. There was something else, something ancient, something evil. They were demons. Their bodies flickered like smoke, shifting and distorting, but their eyes never left me. They stood in a vast circle surrounding the light, unable to step aside. But I knew what they were waiting for. They wanted me back, and I could hear their voices. They were laughing, some whispering, some mocking. "Not yet, but soon. You think he'll keep you forever? You are ours, Robert. You are always ours." Ugh. I wanted to cover my ears, but the voices weren't coming from the outside. They were in my head, pushing into my mind, filling me with doubt, fear, and hopelessness. I looked to Jesus, desperate for answers, but his face was unreadable. "Do not listen to them," he said. His voice was firm and steady. "But why are they here? Why do they know me?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Jesus looked at me with sadness in his eyes. "Because every time you chose sin, they gained power over you. Every time you ignored me, they grew closer. I wanted to deny it, but I couldn't. I had ignored him. I'd lived as if none of this mattered, and now I was seeing the truth. The demons grinned. They knew that I knew. But wasn't Jesus done yet? He raised his hand and the demons shrieked, recoiling. Some vanished into the void and others stood their ground watching and waiting. You must understand, Robert, Jesus said. The battle is not just for your body, it's for your soul. Then everything changed. The darkness faded and suddenly I was standing before something massive. It stretched endlessly in both directions, tall, golden, radiating pure light, the gates of heaven. The moment I saw them, I felt something I couldn't describe, a pull from my very soul that was drawn towards them. It wasn't just a place, it was home. Then I saw on the other side, a shadow spread across the horizon opposite of the gates. It was deeper than darkness, stretching outward like a void. And from inside it, I heard the wails of countless souls. The contrast was unbearable, light and warmth on one side and cold and suffering on the other. I turned back to Jesus, but he was already walking forward. I followed as we approached. I saw people streaming towards the gate. Some were walking with peace, some were hesitant, and some were being pulled away. A force, invisible but unstoppable, dragged them back into the shadows. They screamed and begged and pleaded, but the gates did not open for them. They clawed at the ground, at the air, at anything they can hold on to. I stepped back shaking, why? And Jesus looked at me, his face full of sorrow, and said, they never truly knew me. Isn't this what the Bible says? They will, yeah, I prophesied, I did miracles, yet Jesus will say, depart from me, I never knew you. So powerful. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, but they're calling your name. They're praying, Jesus nodded. Many use my name, but they don't truly follow me. Their hearts are far from me. The gate stood firm, and those who belonged walked with peace, and those who didn't were taken, and I couldn't do anything but watch. I turned to Jesus, my mind racing. I had known about him my whole life, but I'd never really known him. And now there he was, standing before me, more real than anything I'd ever experienced. His eyes, I'll never forget his eyes. They weren't just looking at me, they were looking through me. Past my words, past my excuses, straight into the deepest part of who I was. And for the first time, I understood what it meant to be truly known. I couldn't hide. Every lie, every sin, every time I ignored him, he saw it all. And yet his eyes were filled with love, not anger, not hatred, not disappointment, love, overwhelming, unconditional, all-consuming love. And I couldn't handle it. I dropped to my knees, unable to speak. Jesus stepped closer. His voice was gentle but filled with authority. Robert, do you know why I brought you here? I shook my head. I don't know. He reached out and suddenly I saw flashes, images, memories, times when I ignored his voice, times when I chose my own way instead of his. Times when I hurt others, when I turned my back on him, and I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. Because I love you, Jesus said, and I don't want you to be lost. Tears came down my face, but I didn't deserve this. I failed so many times. Jesus smiled. Jesus smiled. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to follow. And in that moment, I understood that it wasn't about me earning my place. It was about him choosing me. Jesus took a step back and suddenly the ground shifted, the sky darkened and the air grew heavy. And then I saw the future. The earth had split open and fires raged. Storms tore across cities. I saw people running, screaming, crying for help, but no one was listening. No one was coming. Destruction spread like a wave, covering everything in darkness. People fell to their knees, some in prayer, some in despair, and in the midst of it all, I saw figures, twisted demonic beings moving through the chaos, whispering lies, leading people into the abyss. I turned to Jesus, my hand shaking. What is this? His voice was heavy. What is to come if they don't turn back? Terror gripped my heart. But people don't know. They don't understand. Jesus nodded. This is why I'm sending you back. I didn't want to go, not after what I'd seen, but then Jesus said something that sent chills down my spine. Tell them, warn them, because soon the door will close. Ooh, chills. But as soon as Jesus spoke, the vision before me changed. I was no longer looking at fire and destruction. I was looking at people, regular people living their lives as if nothing was wrong. They were laughing and eating and working and scrolling on their phones. Everything seemed normal, but then I saw what Jesus saw. Sin wasn't just around them, it was inside them. I watched as people gossip and their words turned into dark smoke and wrapped around them, suffocating them. I saw greed, men hoarding money, ignoring the cries of the poor, hands gripping on something thick and black. I saw lust, people pulling them into chains without them realizing it. I saw lies slithering around like snakes in people's mouths. Then Jesus raised his hand and I saw something that made my heart stop. People were marked. Some had light radiating from them, pure and strong, but others, their foreheads were stained with darkness, an invisible seal only I can see. I wanted to warn them, to tell them something was happening, but they wouldn't have believed me if I tried. The worst part, some of them went to church every Sunday. They sang, they prayed, they listened to sermons, but their hearts were far from Jesus. Their faith was just a routine, a checklist. They thought they were saved, but they weren't. That's deep. Tears filled my eyes. Jesus, what happens to them? His voice was firm. Unless they turn to me with their whole hearts, they will not enter my kingdom. I broke inside because I always thought believing in God was enough, but now I understood it's not just about knowing his name, it's about knowing him. Suddenly the vision faded and I saw something new. A massive book had floated before me, glowing with heavenly fire. I knew what it was even before Jesus spoke. The book of life, the book that contained the names of those who belonged to God and the ones who were saved. I held my breath as Jesus opened it. Pages turned, one after another, covered in glowing names. Names of people who had surrendered their lives to him. Some I recognized, family members, people from church, but then I saw the blank spaces, empty spots, and names where places names should have been. People who thought they were saved, people who had been good, people who had gone to church, believed in Jesus, but had never truly surrendered. My hands shook. Jesus, why? His voice was heavy. They never gave me their life. They called my name, but they never followed me. Then I saw something that made my blood run cold. Names fading. People who had once been faithful but turned away. People who had known the truth but chose the world instead. Their names blurred, dissolving into nothing. I couldn't breathe. Can they be saved? I asked desperately. Jesus turned to me, his eyes filled with sorrow. As long as they have breath, there's a chance, but soon time will end. It's almost done. I felt sick. How many people think they're saved but aren't? How many have no idea that they're on the edge of losing their eternity? And then Jesus showed me something worse, and suddenly we were no longer alone. A figure stood before us, shining brighter than the sun, his presence radiating authority, an angel, and his voice echoed, shaking the ground. The time is near, the judgment is coming, many will be lost. My heart pounded. I wanted to argue and beg for more time for the world, but the angel continued. They mock the warnings, they laugh at the truth, they choose darkness over light, and the doors closed, and they will beg for mercy, but it'll be too late. I dropped to my knees. Is there anything we can do? I whispered. The angel looked at Jesus, and Jesus nodded. Tell them, the angel said. Tell them to turn back before the door closes forever. A deep sadness filled my chest because I had seen what was coming. I had heard the warnings, and yet I knew what most people wouldn't listen. They would laugh. They would say, we have time. They would say, God is love. God wouldn't send anyone to hell. They would keep living like nothing was wrong until it's too late. Jesus spoke again, his voice full of power. Tell them, Robert. Tell them what you've seen. And I knew in that moment why I'd been set back. Before I could ask anything else, everything shifted. The light around me dimmed, and a strange force pulled me backwards. Wait, I don't want to leave, but it was too late. I felt my body again, the weight of it, the pain, the burning in my chest. I gasped. Air rushed into my lungs like I'd been drowning. Voices screaming, he's back, we have a pulse. I opened my eyes, my vision blurred from my tears. Bright lights, medical equipment, people hovering over me. I had returned, but I was not the same. The memories of what happened burned into me. The faces, the screams, the book of life, the angel's warning. I tried to sit up, and a nurse pushed me down gently. Robert, stay still. You are gone for 3 minutes. 3 minutes? This was all it took to see eternity. I looked around desperate to tell them what had happened, but no one would understand. They would just think I had an hallucination, but I knew the truth. I had been given a second chance. Not for myself, but for them. For everyone who needed to hear this before it was too late. Wow. As soon as I could speak, I began to tell my story. Jesus is real. Heaven is real. Hell is real. The time is running out. The days after I came back were the hardest. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw flashes of what I witnessed. The souls, the screaming, the book of life, Jesus filled with sorrow. The weight of it all crushed me. I tried to act normal around my family, but I wasn't the same person anymore. How could I be? Before I cared about meaningless things, social media, what people thought about me, entertainment, but now none of it mattered, not after seeing what is coming. My parents thought I was just traumatized from the accident. My friends joked that I'd been touched by heaven and laughed it off. No one understood. I tried explaining, but their eyes glazed over like they weren't ready to hear it. That's when I realized the real battle. It wasn't just that what I saw in eternity. It was what was happening on earth. People weren't rejecting God because they hated him. They didn't care. They were too distracted, too caught up in their own lives to notice how much time was slipping away. And that terrified me more than anything, because that's exactly how the people I saw in hell had lived. They ignored the warnings, thinking they had time. I'd be given a second chance. I'd seen the truth, and I couldn't waste it. Jesus didn't bring me back to go back to my old life. He brought me back for a reason, and I kept his word, hearing his words in my head. Tell them. So I started talking, first to my family. My mom cried when I told her. My dad listened and stayed silent. My little brother didn't know what to say. Then I told my friends. Some believed, some didn't. I wrote about it. I spoke about it. I told people in church, at school, online. I didn't care if they laughed. I didn't care if they thought I was crazy. It was a warning. I told them about the people who thought they were saved that weren't. I told them about the names fading from the book of life. I told them about the demons waiting for those who choose sin over God. And I told them about Jesus, the way he looked at me, the way he loved me, even though I didn't deserve it, the way he showed me that it's not too late to turn back. Some listened, others didn't, but it wasn't my job. My job was to tell them. If you're reading this, I need you to listen. This isn't just my story, it's your warning. I died. I saw what happens after this life, and I was given a second chance, but not everyone will. Jesus showed me the truth. Hell is real. It's not just for bad people. It's for anyone who ignores God, anyone who thinks they can live without him, anyone who rejects his love and chooses the world instead. Most people don't believe it. Most people think I'll fix my life later, but later is running out. I saw what's coming. Jesus showed me. He said the time is near and people need to wake up before it's too late. I don't care if you think I'm crazy. I don't care if they ignore me. I did my job, and I'm telling you the choice is yours. Jesus is waiting. He's been waiting. Too soon soon the door will close, and if it does, there's no going back. Please don't wait. Turn to him right now because time is almost up. After coming back, I realized that the battle is not the battle I witnessed in the spiritual realm wasn't just happening there, it was happening here every single day. At first, I didn't notice it, but I thought I can go back to my normal life while spreading the message. But then the attack started. It began with nightmares. Okay, so he goes on to getting attacked by demons, continual nightmares after this. And then he says this is the last thing I want to share here. Some people think they can wait until they're older to follow God. Others think just going to church is enough, but I saw the book of life. I saw names that weren't there. People who thought they were saved but had never truly surrendered. And when their time came, they were dragged away. I don't want that for you. Jesus didn't want that for you. But the truth is, he won't force you to follow him. You have to choose. And the worst lie the enemy ever told the world is that you have plenty of time, because one day you'll wake up and it'll be too late. The door will be closed and all that will be left is regret. So please don't wait. Don't brush this off. Don't tell yourself you'll think about it later, because later may never come. Jesus is calling you right now. Will you answer? Man, that is a strong testimony, guys, of a young man that died, got hit by a car, and basically God showed him the torment in hell, showed him heaven, and showed him that time is short. And this is a thought that I have probably once every couple hours, every single day, of how quick life is. You guys have heard me preach on Judgment Day. You never know when your last day will be. You never know when you're going to be standing before him. We have to be ready. Now, it might not be that we're in the last days, even though I think we are, but you are in your last days. Regardless of what's going on in the world, you are living in your last days. Every single breath you take is one breath closer to eternity. I hope this testimony, this near-death experience, will wake you up, will make you realize how short life is. I just wanted to bring you guys this video, share the story. I listened to it. It was like an AI voice, but it was just a story I was listening to, and I thought, I'm going to share the story with my audience because it's real, it's happening, it's biblical, time is short, time is limited. Wake up, serve Jesus, surrender everything. Don't play games with God. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want to hear more near-death experiences down below in the comments. Pray about becoming a monthly partner on our website, IsaiahSaldivar.com/partner. We're looking for monthly support in 2026. Keep doing what we're doing full-time. And you can also check out my book down below. And we're live every Monday with the Bible teaching at 5 o'clock and every Thursday with the podcast at 5 o'clock. So love and appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the next one. God bless.